These can absolutely destroy your thin, fine hair. Now I am about to tell you exactly why, if you want volume, you need to be using them. That sounds weird. Follow me here. There's a hidden technique that creates volume from the inside of your bob haircut that you can't even see. And once you know about it, you're gonna realize why your bob keeps falling flat no matter what products you use or how you style it. Stick with me, because I'm about to show you exactly what's missing from your current haircut and how to fix it. You want volume? I want you to have it. Okay, I kind of call this like the gravity trap of the traditional bob. All right, so let's start with the problem. Here's what happens. When you cut a standard kind of blunt bob, you're creating a bottom heavy triangle shape. Okay? All the weight is gonna be sitting at the bottom, and that weight drags everything down. Now, if you've got thick hair, that weight actually kind of works for you in some ways because your hair will tend to get big, so the weight kind of pulls it down a little bit. But if you've got fine hair, that weight just pulls everything flat and slaps it straight against your scalp. Nobody wants that. As we age, our fine hair loses its structural integrity. Okay, the follicle diameter actually gets smaller, the hair loses elasticity, you just don't have the same body or bounce that it used to have. So when you combine fine hair with a bottom heavy bob, you end up with a shape that sits flat on your head and drags your features on your face down. It makes your face look longer, it makes your jawline look heavier, and it just doesn't have that lift and energy that you're probably looking for. Now, for a long time, people have just been told that the solution is to just keep the length. You know, like long hair is youthful, long hair is feminine, but honestly, here's what I've learned. It's not about chasing length, it's about prioritizing volume in the right area. No, I'm not saying that long hair is inherently bad. I'm simply saying that long hair is not the only option if you want to have a more youthful look. I can already hear people. Man, the second I say anything that makes people think that I'm saying something negative against long hair, you would think I'm telling you to go club puppies. Long hair is great. I've got nothing against it, okay? I'm just saying it's not the only option. There we go. Are we good? We're good. So the psychological shift here, if you will, is moving away from thinking about length and starting to think about shape and structure. Okay, and so here's the secret. Sidestep real quick. If you're getting any value out of this, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's totally free. You can unsubscribe at any time, but it really does help out the channel, so I sincerely appreciate it. And even more importantly, if you think a friend could benefit from this video, do me a massive favor and do them a massive favor. Be the hero. Share it with them. They're gonna be so much happier with you. I'm making you look good. No, I'm not. No, but it does help me, so that'd be great. Helps you look good. I don't know. Okay, and so here's the secret. It's what many stylists, or what I refer to as internal weight removal. Okay, so let's talk about this solution for a second. If you've never heard of this term before, I'll explain what it is. Internal weight removal is just a technique where you remove weight from inside the haircut without actually affecting the top layer, or kind of what you see on the outside. So on the outside, the hair still looks blunt and thick, but on the inside, you're removing bulk in a very strategic way that's gonna create a little bit of lift and support for volume. Now, here's the difference between internal weight removal and simply just getting your hair layered. Surface layers are what most people think of when they think of layering, okay? You're cutting the top layers shorter so they sit on top of the longer layers underneath, and that can create movement and texture and all of that stuff, and I love that. But when it's done wrong, it can also look kind of choppy or make the hair look overly thin, especially when you're dealing with fine or thin hair. Whereas internal weight removal is a little bit different. You're not cutting the surface hair shorter, you're just removing weight from underneath that to create a little bit of extra foundation for the hair on top of that to sit on or rest on. So let me give you a visual here. Imagine you've got a bob that's all just one length to the chin. Now on the outside, it's all one length, but on the inside, you're just gonna create these little shorter pieces that are a little bit lighter than the hairs on the top of them. And because of that, those lighter hairs, it's gonna be easy for them to get a little bit of lift. So they're gonna get a little bit fuller. And then the rest of the hair that sits on top of that, it's gonna use them kind of like a support structure that's gonna help to keep the little bit volume a little bit longer. It's gonna act a little bit like the volume that I talked about in a recent video. If you didn't see that video, I'll go ahead and link that right here. But it's a tool that's a little bit like a crimper, and it can kind of create this texture in your hair. I'll link it in the description so you can find it. It's actually does really good for this kind of stuff. But it creates this little bit of foundation for the other hair on top to sit over, and that to create a little bit of extra foundation for that top hair to hold the volume that's in that top hair longer. So you get more volume, but you also get that volume to last longer and not fall out. Now this process is something that you could do in combination with the volume, but you could also just do this on its own, and it'll also help to create some volume. Now, the real beauty of this technique is that it preserves the appearance of the thick ends that you like, because the perimeter is still kind of blunt and full, but you've removed some of the bulk on the inside that's causing that bob to lay flat. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the look of this kind of thick, healthy hair, but you also get a little bit of volume and that little bit of lift that you need. So let's talk about the tools and kind of the technique so that you know how to ask for this at the salon. Most stylists, when they want to remove bulk from fine hair, they're going to reach for texturizing shears. And don't get me wrong, texturizing shears can be great in some situations, but on fine hair, they can also be a bit of your worst enemy. Okay, here's why. Texturizing shears remove little bits of hair throughout the section. And on thick hair, that's gonna create texture and movement. But on fine hair, it can make the hair even look a little bit thinner and more wispy. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't use texturizing shears on thin, fine hair. I use them all the time. Just for this particular approach to the way we're removing bulk, I would not necessarily use texturizing shears. Instead, I would use regular shears. And I would use a technique called slide cutting to remove that bulk in a more controlled way. Now, slide cutting is where you glide the shears down the hair shaft to remove bulk without creating like a blunt line by just cutting the hair, okay? And this technique can remove weight and create movement without making the hair kind of look too thin. I actually made an entire video about this exact technique that you can literally show your stylist to explain how to do it so that you don't have to try to explain it. I know that sounds crazy, but I made this specifically for this exact reason. I'll link in the description as well as at the end of this video so that you can easily find it. Now, keep in mind in the video, I also incorporate another technique for the nape of your hair that helps to create a little bit more volume. And I went a little bit more aggressive in the internal weight removal portion of the video. So I didn't only do it underneath, I actually did it on top as well. But this is just something to show your stylist how you would do it, and then the two of you can determine what makes the most sense, the way to approach that technique with your hair that makes the most sense. All of this is gonna make sense when you actually watch the other video, so make sure you go watch it because you need to go watch it. You're gonna wanna go watch that after you're done with this one. Now, let me show you the difference between surface style bob and one that's had some of that internal weight removed. A surface style bob is one where the stylist just cuts the perimeter and leaves it basically one length, okay? They style it with the round brush, they get some product in there to create a little bit of volume, and it looks great when you leave the salon. But as soon as you wash it and try to style it yourself, it's gonna fall flat. On the other hand, a bob with internal weight removal is a little bit different. Okay, the volume is built into the structure of the haircut. So even if you just blow dry it with your hands or you let it kind of air dry even, you're still gonna get a little bit more lift and movement than you're typically used to. The structure internally is kind of doing a bit of that work for you. And that's the key, right? You want a haircut that kind of works for you and not against you. Now, there's a secret about this technique that's gonna change the way you think about it. And I'm gonna get to that in just a second. But first, let's talk about maintenance, okay? Because this is gonna be really important. I know we all think about how often we're gonna have to go get something maintained. Once you've got the internal weight removal in your haircut done, you're still gonna need to maintain that. And that means you're still gonna need to get regular trims to make sure that that internal weight line doesn't kind of migrate or like start to grow out and then that shape starts to collapse again. Now, for me, I would recommend probably about every 4 to 6 weeks, you're gonna need to get that maintained, okay? And I know that could sound like a lot. Here's the thing. You're not cutting off a lot of length in this. You're just maintaining the internal structure of it, all right? Your stylist is basically gonna clean up the perimeter, but they're gonna reestablish that internal weight removal so that you still get that lift because it's gonna start to fall flat again. If you wait too long in between trims, the hair is gonna start to grow out and that internal weight is gonna start to come back. And when that happens, your hair is gonna lose that support and it's gonna start laying flat all over again. So yes, regular maintenance is actually kind of key on this. Now, with that said, if your hair is super thin, you actually need to wait a little bit longer in between cuts just to ensure that it doesn't end up getting overly thinned in this process. You want to wait for those shorter pieces internally to get a little bit longer in comparison to the rest of your hair so that you're not just constantly removing more and more hair and then it ends up looking thin. It's like continuously pouring water out of a container. At some point, you need to allow that water to fill back up the container or the container is going to run dry. I feel like that was a terrible analogy, but I think you get it. All right. So let me show you the difference that this can make. Now on one side, you've got a traditional blunt bob. It's all one length on the outside and on the inside. The weight is sitting at the bottom, and when you look at it, it just kind of drags the face down. It pulls the face down because there's no lift, there's no real energy. It just kind of sits there. On the other side, you've got a bob with some internal weight removed. Okay, the perimeter is still blunt and full, but when you look at it, you can see now there's like a little bit of lifting in the face, there's movement, there's energy. It looks youthful and a little bit more vibrant. And the best part is, both of these bobs are the exact same length. They actually even look the same in terms of the overall haircut. The difference is just all in the internal structure. It's all kind of hidden inside. So if you've been struggling with flat, lifeless hair, this could be the solution that you're looking for. Okay, so earlier I mentioned a secret about this kind of technique and how I could change the way that you think of it. Well, here it is. I created this video about bob hairstyles, but in reality, this is a technique that you can use on any length, basically all different lengths and styles. It tends to work really well on bobs because they already have the length short enough to create volume, but even in longer shapes, this works great too. So don't think of this as a haircut. This is a technique that you can have applied to your haircut to help create a little bit more volume. Look, I know that finding the right haircut can feel overwhelming, especially when you've got fine hair and you're dealing with all the changes that come as we age. But here's the thing, you don't have to settle for flat, lifeless hair. You can have volume, you can have lift, you can have a haircut that makes you feel confident and amazing. It's just about understanding the structure and knowing what to ask for. So I hope this helped you. I hope it helped you feel a little bit more equipped to have a conversation with your stylist about internal weight removal and how it can work for you. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, gosh, I wish my stylist knew about this, share the video with them, okay? It's gonna be right here. Check that out, send them the link, let them watch it, because the more educated they are, the better the haircut's gonna go for you. Now, if you have any questions, like I say, drop them in the comments below. I'll go ahead and read them. I might not respond to all of them, but I've tried to get to as many as I can. But either way, I appreciate you hanging out today. And again, send that to your stylist, let them watch that. This is gonna help you talk to them. Fair enough? All right, you go watch this, I'll see you over there.